Alicia Amiri is a singer, songwriter, and a guitarist and the frontwoman of the electro-goth band Nightmare Fortress. At a young age, she already seems like an elder statesman of Seattle's independent music scene, having done production at Numos and the Crocodile, having helped run Pearl Jam's fan club, and having played around the West Coast solo acoustic as leader of the rock band Lovesick Empire and, of course, with Nightmare Fortress. Today, the band released their first LP, The Wanting, a stylish, grim, intricate set of grave rave bangers and dirges. I recommend it, certainly if you enjoy Peter Hook and the Light, Crystal Castles, or A Place to Bury Strangers, all of which are acts they've shared bills with. Nightmare Fortress tomorrow is embarking on a West Coast tour. Anything you'd like to add to that, Alicia? Maybe give some of the dates?
Sure. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 13th, we are in Portland. Friday, we're playing the Rickshaw in San Francisco, opening for a band called Say Lulu, which is the hot twin daughters of the lead singer of the band The Church. His daughters have a band, and we are opening for them. And that show is already sold out, so that should be awesome. And Sunday night, we're playing a Dias Records label showcase in Los Angeles at the Complex, which is also a goth barbecue with like 8 other bands. Then we're playing Santa Ana. Then we're playing Tacoma and Bellingham. So it's a quick run, but we have a couple awesome shows in there and then a couple markets we've never played before. So we're just trying to get some traction on our new album that just came out.
Your band's sound is dark, would you say?
I hope so.
This is a show about philosophy, armchair philosophy, and aesthetics. We try to go deep with it. So let's get into why Nightmare Fortress is dark. We exchanged some emails before. You sent me a Kierkegaard passage. What is a poet? An unhappy man who conceals profound anguish in his heart, but whose lips are so fashioned that sighs and groans pass over them, and they sound like beautiful music. His fate resembles that of the unhappy men who are slowly roasted by a gentle fire in the tyrant Phalaris's bowl. Their shrieks could not reach his ear to terrify him. To him they sounded like sweet music, and people flock about the poet and say to him, "Do sing again," which means, "Would that new sufferings tormented your soul, and would that your lips stayed fashioned as before, for your cries would only terrify us, but your music is delightful." Do you relate to that?
Yes, of course I do. That's why I sent it. I mean, I relate to it, and I also find it, charming even. But everybody seems to enjoy watching the tortured artist trope on stage or in the media or in Daily Mail articles. And I believe people get a combination of they relate to it. They relate to the pain of humanity, the pain of existence that we all feel. But then there's this also kind of detached looking down on that person. Like the artist suffers a little bit, so the masses don't have to.
It sometimes feels like the artist is a surrogate feeling or helping the person to feel something that maybe they get to a place that they couldn't even feel without the aid of the music.
Yeah, or it helps them understand and describe emotions or things that they're going through that they couldn't articulate themselves. But there's no such thing as good music that people can't relate to. So no matter how over the top and sad and mopey things are, if people couldn't relate to it, they wouldn't enjoy it at all. I
do sense you have a beautiful voice. I sense with Nightmare Fortress there is an effort to punch through beauty as being the primary aesthetic, and to show or reveal the terrifying contents of Phalaris's bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think my bandmates and myself are all a little bored with the glorification of beauty and physical beauty and social media posting of images that look nice. And we have all actively tried to step away from that, especially in our band's representation.
And I think your fans are savvy and pick up on that. I feel that kind of clickbaity behavior from a band kind of violates rapport between them and the audience. So it violates the trust, and I feel manipulated when I see that kind of stuff.
I do as well, but I think that there's tons of people that actually enjoy that sort of communication with bands. And I think that I think that there's no wrong way to do it. I think if a band wants to be super cheesy and say how much they love their fans and put up cute pictures of themselves, that is a thing that has its place in the world. And a lot of, consumers of music are looking for that. But I feel like there's plenty of it, and I don't have any desire to contribute to that. And I do feel like there's plenty of people out there who are sick of it and want something that's a little bit more pulled back or a little bit more complicated, because everything with social media is just pushed in your face so hard. You don't need to say, check out my Facebook page at a show anymore. People know that. If they want to look you up, they will. And also making yourself a little bit harder to find is a new kind of value, I think.
The way that you're speaking about this is, and this leads to my next question, is this real awareness of being surrounded by people. You're saying you just moved, and before you came to your new place, you were living in a place with 5 roommates, and you would often have bands crashing on your couch.
Oh, yeah.
The first track on the Wanting, No Exit, it seems like a reference to Sartre's play. Is it?
It is. I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, it's called that.
Here's the connection that I see. So in that play, 3 people are locked in a room in hell, mm-hmm. and they're not being flayed or skewered or tortured. That's what they expect, but then it slowly dawns on them that instead they're destined to play the role of each other's tormentors. They're perfectly incompatible. It's the play that coined the phrase, hell is other people. Relationships are portrayed in a somewhat bleak way in the world of Nightmare Fortress. No?
I mean, I think that they are bleak, and I'm
even better.
Portraying them accurately, but yes. But yes, I mean, that is what that first song is hugely a reference to that, and that these people are in this basically waiting room to hell, having to chit chat with each other, which I feel like is much of my daily life. I'm in these weird waiting rooms to hell where I have to like small talk with people at bars and fundraiser mixers. And then they realize that that's the hell, that's the waiting room. And I was thinking a couple different things in that song, romantic relationships, but also going through life. You go to college and you get a job, and then you go and you eat dinner, and then you go to this party, and then you make a baby, and then you put some money in, an investment firm, and then you do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. And it's actually hell. Like, how many people go through these arbitrary motions and confines of what their life is supposed to be? And when it doesn't take too long to go to a different culture, and those rules are totally different. So why do you believe you have to do these concepts you were socialized?
To that, people are portrayed in more than one place on the album as performers. For example,
I sit back and watch you perform. You belong to me. You were never free.
could you expand on that? You are yourself by trade, in a sense, a performer.
Yes, among other things. But I that's also sort of a reference to the performative nature of, human existence, which includes our socioeconomic status and gender and profession and all this stuff.
So how do you know when somebody's not performing? What is the tell for you?
I'm not sure there's a way to not perform. I think that, to exist is to do something. There's no such thing as not doing anything. Not doing anything is what you're more consuming than producing. That's still doing something. So I feel that since you have no choice, as long as you are going to choose to be alive, you might as well choose to be deliberate in your actions, presentation, and performance in the world or on stage or in any part of your life.
A song from the last band you were in, the song is Leave a Light On, has a line that is very unnerving to me. There's a danger of inauthenticity that those seem to be the stakes in some of your songs.
Inauthenticity?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, and that was what I was saying a little bit earlier about people. And when I say people, I don't mean to exclude myself from it, because I am as caught as anybody in my socialization and, social obligations, perhaps more than the average person.
I think that gives the songs this real tension and power, is that they're not preachy. That drama imbues the songs in the first person as well.
Yeah, I don't mean to be preaching to other people about how they live. It's more, if anything, calling myself out or just saying things I notice in my friends or just observations of strangers, that it seems like we spend so much time and energy doing the things we're supposed to do, or we feel like are real, but are just these constructs that are no more real than, people who live in the jungle and hunt for dinner every night. They have very different values. So why are ours more real? Because we were born in this culture. We can choose to change our minds, our mindset and lifestyle so much more than we ever do. And how much of our lives do we go through behaving in ways that we don't really believe in? Or also, how much of our lives do we not even consider what we actually believe?
Let's talk about pessimism, specifically the philosophical pessimism of Arthur Schopenhauer. When we were exchanging emails before this, I sent you a link to his audiobook on pessimism, and you said it was really hitting the spot. Here's a quote. That a god like Jehovah should have created this world of misery and woe out of pure caprice, and because he enjoyed doing it, and then should have clapped his hands in praise of his own work and declared everything to be very good, that will not do at all. There are two things which make it impossible to believe that this world is the successful work of an all-wise, all-good, and at the same time all-powerful being. First, the misery which abounds in it everywhere, and secondly, the obvious imperfection of its highest product, man, who is a burlesque of what he should be. If man is a burlesque of what he should be, what should he be?
I mean, I think this is something Nietzsche touches on a bunch as well, but we should all strive to be the most realized versions of ourselves possible. And I don't think that that is something people try to do. And I don't think that that's valued in culture. And honestly, I don't know if that would be beneficial to culture in general, because culture would be a much more grinding machine if people had so many loud opinions of their role in everything.
Yeah. Nietzsche said the task of man is to overcome himself, and perhaps that isn't suitable for everybody, but it does seem to be a task you've taken on. Can you tell the listeners what your Twitter headline is at the moment?
It says, "Ride a lion and crush all delusion."
Yeah, and also your band's song Crusher contains the line, "You're delusional, it was never fair."
But justice really don't stop there. You're delusional. It was never fair.
Are you on a mission to crush all delusion? I don't know how to put this into a question, but what are the delusions?
That's a question.
Okay.
What's the delusion? I mean, I have very little taste for people not thinking critically, for people just taking things at face value and accepting them and moving on with their lives. I'm not interested in that. That song Crusher is about justice. There's no justice. You know, the people with more will get theirs. I don't believe in cosmic justice really, or karma.
Yeah. As somebody who's been,
I believe in power, and power crushes what's fair every single time.
As somebody who has been around a lot of privileged people, I agree with that assessment. That's one aspect of the Bible I've never been able to believe in my heart, is that the meek shall inherit the earth.
No, that's just trying to get slaves back in their place.
The heirs shall inherit the earth.
Yeah. It was predestined. They already have it. And if you want it, you will have to beat them and pry it from their cold, dead hands. Which happens too. I don't know if that's justice either, though.
I'd like to talk about the aesthetic techniques by which Nightmare Fortress conveys this, the crushing scales of justice, and even the name of the band, being inside of this fortress. There's a claustrophobic quality. The beats are tense and intricate and rarely let up. Have you guys talked about that?
The quality of the soundscapes, or
well, you used the word soundscape, but it seems to, I think it's reductive and not accurate in the case of your band to say that they are just soundscapes, but there is this sense of place and of being sort of trapped inside of something that I hear.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, honestly, I don't make the music. I help shape and structure the music that my bandmates start with initially, into the song structures, but I don't start with the tones. I sometimes have opinions about it, but that's very much their vision for the sound of it. There are some very specific things. We want the band to be very specific. We dress in a certain way on stage. We present ourselves in a certain way. It's it's not lighthearted at all, which we get made fun of about sometimes.
But
we take it seriously in a world of jokes and like new apathy, as in new apathy is punk these days. It's just like, fuck everything. You know, we want to not just say fuck everything, but actually take something seriously and try hard and make, you know, we play characters in the band, I'll say. I mean, the way I represent myself on stage in that band is very different than the rest of my life. I think I have much more of a sense of humor about myself, you know, off stage.
Yeah,
in that
this is,
project.
I can speak to this. This is absolutely the case. And I wanted to speak to that. One more Schopenhauer quote seems relevant. He distinguished between two different ways of being not optimistic. Quote, melancholy is a very different thing from bad humor. And of the two, it is not nearly so far removed from a gay and happy temperament. Melancholy attracts, while bad humor repels. And by bad humor, to specify, he means kind of seeking out things that will bother you. He says, like, to be a hypochondriac and then to be bothered by them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a melancholy to the band, but it's not like this emo kind of drama stirring thing. It's this kind of sitting back and regarding the world with some melancholy.
Yeah, I would say so. I appreciate that assessment. It's really important to me to not expend energy or give power to things that I don't like. So if I think somebody sucks, the last thing in the world I want to do is be upset by them, because that just means I'm giving them power and credit.
I think the Nietzsche quote is, turning away will be my highest denial, by which he means he's not going to engage with the things that he wishes don't exist. He's going to sort of cast his vote by not helping vote them out of existence, by not giving them his energy.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not gonna protest the Nazi parade. I'm not gonna show up. I want everybody to not show up to the Nazi parade. I want everybody to not go to Black Friday. I'm not gonna protest it.
Yeah, I think that is a crucial message for people to get in the internet age. I think that just that skill of like managing one's own energies, they call it the loop that you get in when you sit down on a computer and you go to like Facebook, Reddit, Quora.com, your email, and then you repeat and you just go over and over again. And as you go around the cycle, you're like picking up the viral news cycle and you're commenting on stuff and you're just feeding the cycle. And
yeah, sharing articles of things that are terrible. It's like, just don't share them.
The album's first single says,
Waiting for the perfect feeling.
is that ironic? I'm curious about that phrase. It's a really kind of interesting phrase, because I don't...
The song The Perfect Feeling. Well, honestly, it's a bit of a hat tip to a Drinky Crow comic. You know, there's this character of this drunk crow called Drinky Crow that's a recurring character in this comic series, and he's sitting and just like getting wasted, and you know, the monkey goes up to him and says, Drinky Crow, what are you doing? And he takes a gun and shoots himself in the head. And then the next phrase, like after he's shot himself, he says, I'm just looking for that perfect feeling.
What is it like for you to sing that and know that it's this kind of inside joke that nobody in the audience probably knows or will ever know?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's what being a lyricist is, I hope. I mean, everything that I write is about something. I mean, one of the songs is about my boyfriend's father killing himself, and it is pretty deliberately in the words of the songs if you knew. But if you don't know, you would infer all this other stuff from it, because I'm also using images of Lucifer falling from heaven and all this stuff.
Offer the fruit to a weak soul, carrying the light to me. Praise for the death of a king. To make you stay, we will chain you down. Live in the dirt, give up the crown. Prove to the world what you believe.
So that was very, and I actually got in an interesting kind of fight with one of my bandmates about something that I wrote in a song that we had played for years and I had sang a million times, and we're like loading off stage for one show, and we're kind of casually talking, having some drinks, and I mentioned, oh, that song is about you, to my bandmate. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, it's about you checking your phone all the time, and when you were like internet dating. But he took it as this huge insult and didn't realize that that's what the song was about. But I didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. It wasn't even all true. It was like those little bits of my life I kind of exaggerated for the show of it to represent like a broader concept. But everything comes from these little things that I just internalize all the time. But what comes from it, hopefully, is something broader than that.
I think the name of the band is more symbolic, but if I can ask more literally, do you have a lot of nightmares? No?
No, not really. I actually, I mean, to be totally blunt, I smoke a lot of weed, and I don't have a particularly good recall for my dreams, and I sleep pretty well. To be totally blunt, the name of the band came about because I, half jokingly, wanted to call us the Nightmares, as in the nightmare rides on from the Smashing Pumpkins song. But I wanted to be the Nightmares.
2 words, yeah.
And yep. And they wanted to be called Fortress. Just the word fortress. And I was like, that's ungoogleable. And so we just compromised to Nightmare Fortress, which was highly Googleable, except it is a pornographic Japanese comic book series that's gay anime porn called Nightmare Fortress. But aside from that, we're the only one.
I think that is pretty much everything. I do want to offer you the opportunity. You can take a moment and think. We can stick at the end of this podcast episode, we can debut a song of yours, like an old demo or something that hasn't been released.
Yeah, I can email you something if you'd like.
Cool. I think people would like that.
Before I started, I didn't start, but before Nightmare Fortress began, it was me and one of the guys. We were both in other bands, and I loved the band he was in at the time, and they were kind of on the way out. So me and him started talking about doing a project together before the other two, and those other two guys were talking amongst themselves about doing something as well. The two and two eventually came together to form the band. But my bandmate Colin sent me a handful of demos, and I took them home and put vocals on top of them as a place to start before we ever had band practice or did anything. And I will send you one of those.
Excellent. And here is one of them now. This has been Quick to Listen, and Alicia Amiri of Nightmare Fortress.
Thank you.
sun can't die.